continue our work, so we can all be hopeful to continue our work to make the world more peaceful, and peace begins with us to make the world more peaceful, and peace begins with us. There has been a sharp increase in cases of violence over religious issues in the last few years. In India, such violence is commonly referred to as communalism. In February this year, a 23-year-old Hindu man was killed in New Delhi. His name was Yashpal Saxena. His girlfriend was a Muslim woman. Ankit was killed in the capital of the country, allegedly by his girlfriend's family because of the fact that they were from two different religious communities. As news emerged of the cold-blooded murder, there was a danger of retaliatory anti-Muslim violence. Messages of hate started to pour in on websites and social media, blaming a religious community. But the father of the victim did something that no one expected. He put a stop to hate-mongering with one simple, straightforward statement. Please do not politicize his murder. Please do not communalize it. It is something one human being did to another. Religion is irrelevant. Yashpal Saxena, a man who had just lost his son, a man of few means from a working-class neighborhood, a man whose religion is the dominant religion of his country, had the courage to say that enough is enough. I am not going to let myself be forced into this cycle of hate. He did not let his son's murder be used by divisive politics. Instead, this Ramadan, the Muslim month of fasting, he hosted a gathering for Iftar, the meal Muslims take as they break their fast at sunset. Over 200 people attended, including a few well-known social activists. But the majority of those who attended and nearly all of those who helped Saxena host the event were ordinary people making a gesture of solidarity. He refuses to attend events organized by anyone who could use his presence for political or anti-social purposes. Recently, he attended another Iftar in the neighboring city of Gurgaon. It was hosted by a citizens' initiative that came together after incidents of disruption of Muslim prayers in the city. We talked to Mr. Rahul Roy, one of the core members of Gurgaon Nagrik Ekta Manch, which means Gurgaon Citizens Unity Forum.
The Nagrik Ekta Manch is a very new platform. It was set up in the wake of attacks on the Jummah Friday namaz in Gurgaon. About a month and a half back, there were a series of attacks on the Friday Jummah namaz, which is being offered in public spaces. And there were groups of vigilantes who objected to Muslims praying in open grounds and wanted them that practice to be stopped. And Gurgaon, which has been more or less a fairly peaceful city, which has not really had a history of Hindu-Muslim violence in the recent past, suddenly there was a lot of tension in the city, and there was a fear that this could turn into a more violent, what is in India what are called communal riots, and it could take the shape of that. So a lot of concerned citizens came together under this platform called the Nagrik Ekta Manch to see how, as a citizens platform, we could intervene in this situation and, one, stop these attacks from happening, and number two, build certain bonds within citizens of Gurgaon who could then emerge as the bulwark against hatred and against this almost a political campaign against Muslims.
For people who don't live in India or South Asia, can you explain a little bit why people pray out in the open?
The reason in Gurgaon is fairly simple. Uh, Gurgaon has, in terms of its population, has exploded in the last 10 years or so. A lot of it's really a migrant city, made up of migrants who come from all over India as well as abroad. And it so happens that there are very few masjids, there are very few mosques in Gurgaon, and you could count them on your fingertips. And the population that's grown in the last 10 years, it cannot accommodate, the mosques cannot accommodate all the people for the namaz. So that is one primary reason. The second reason is that also, Gurgaon is terrible in terms of its transport facilities. It would take a lot from people to really travel from their workplace to these mosques to offer namaz.
National and international organizations have raised concerns over a significant rise in religious hate and violence related to religious hate in India. I wonder if you can put what has happened in Gurgaon in relation to the larger picture in India, where people of minority communities are targeted, they are identified in public areas.
Yes, the last 3-4 years have been terrible as far as attacks on minorities are concerned. These attacks, as almost everyone knows, have been around certain specific issues. Cow protection has been one excuse around which Muslims have been attacked, and Dalits have been attacked in India. In fact, many of us who are part of this Nagrik Ekta Manch have also been part of another campaign which started a year back, which is called the Not in My Name campaign, which was set up in the context of the murder of a 15-year-old young Muslim boy, Junaid, on a suburban train in Delhi, which sparked off a campaign and which spread all across the country. And so there's been a concerted attempt to create hatred. And all kinds of excuses have been used to create that hatred. And what we are seeing is targeted attacks and targeted killings, by which, exactly as you're saying, that people are identified because of clothes that they wear, because of how they may look, and as soon as they're identified as being Muslims or Dalits or Christians, there've been planned attacks on them, and this is being done with the primary purpose of mobilizing populations around the issue of hatred.
In an environment where hatred, bigotry, and sectarianism seems to be the dominant feature of the official narrative, and when violence is taking place, for instance, lynchings in broad daylight, how do you think an effort like the one you're involved in is going to make a difference? How effective can it be?
See, what we are trying to do, Iftar is one of the actions that we took. The other action that we've been involved in is to pressurize the administration to maintain the rule of law. Because there are two ways in which one can counter this. One is, of course, the fact that the administration has to follow the rule of law. And that is what their constitutional duty is. And that is what we are trying to remind the administration about. And this reminder comes through petitioning, through meetings, and even if there's a need, then by demonstrating on the streets. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is that what we have felt, and that's been the principle that we followed even with the Not in My Name campaign, that groups of citizens under these terrible emergency circumstances have to self-organize. And you cannot wait for political parties or other organizations to intervene. how can citizens on their own in these circumstances self-organize and break the silence and come out and say that, look, what is happening, we stand against it, and we stand for constitutional values and constitutional rights. So I think that is what is at the heart of this entire platform, because a lot of people and most of the people actually would not be in agreement with what's happening. But how do you actually create an opportunity for those people to articulate their feelings? So the iftar is one of the things that we have done, which is provided an opportunity for everyone to come together and literally break bread together, and under circumstances where there is a threat.
Supposingly tomorrow in Gurgaon there is an attack on somebody, it could be anyone, preventing them to exercise their right to worship. What would you as a group do?
What we have planned is that if in case there are attacks again, and that is what we are working towards, that large groups of citizens can come out on the streets and even stand in guard while people worship or while people pray. So that is something that is also on the cards, that if these attacks follow, we will all come out on the streets and we will form a human shield for people to pray. So there are various strategies and various things that are on the cards, and we are waiting to see how the situation develops further.
I see. Clearly from your name, although I may be mistaken, you are not from a religious minority group in India.
No, I'm not.
So can you tell me what is prompting you to do this? Because clearly you are not under attack. You were not the one praying. You don't have, a family that goes and prays during Ramadan.
I think that there are several answers to that. There are certain personal answers to that, in the sense that, I have a lot of Muslim friends who are very, very close to me. I studied at Jamia Millia Islamia, which is, primarily a minority institution. That's where I got educated. And I have lots and lots of Muslim friends. And if today I feel that my friends are under attack and are under threat, then how can I look them in their eye without, somewhere getting the message through that I am not part of this and that I actually stand in protest. So that is a very personal, reason why I've been part of these various campaigns against communalism and against these communal attacks. And besides that, politically, I feel that there is that, these are communal mobilizations. These are essentially at the heart of it. These are all ways in which, these are counter reactions to the promises of democracy and democratic rights. So ultimately, it's going to wipe off and affect everyone. In the immediate context, the attack may not be on me. Or may not be on, people who are not, somewhere identified as minorities. But ultimately, it's going to cover everyone, because it's actually it's a counter reaction to democracy, and it's a counter reaction to democratic rights. And everyone will get stripped of that. This is just a political mobilization. It's a form of political mobilization. So I think from both those stands, it's very clear that anyone who stands for the constitutional rights and for democracy has to resist communal politics and politics of hatred. Citizens' protests and citizens' efforts become so critically important in these times, because it's not just for political parties to commit to the idea of rights and of citizenship. But it is for citizens themselves to seize that for themselves. But when we are talking about protecting a secular democracy, then it's about actually recognizing that hatred is the means by which an anti-democratic constituency is being created and mobilized. And to counter hatred, it's the various ways in which one has to do it, and there is no one way, but there is one direct and clear way, which is that you have to reject violence and that you have to reject hatred, that even a counter to these guys cannot be through violence, because that is what fosters hatred. And so even your counter has to be actually about love, about peace, and about togetherness, and about the common things that bind you together.
However, as is the case in many parts of the world, economic insecurity can make people more vulnerable to the manipulative divide and rule policy. This can be overcome, though, says Nazim Iqbal, a main member of the Gurgaon initiative that we are talking about, because he believes that the core values, the needs and aspirations of all human beings are the same.
Unlike the people who are higher up the ladder, who are more sure-footed because of their education, because they are rooted in some higher degrees, they are rooted to families who are well placed, well connected, who are part of large organization which is recognized. These people lower down the order, they have this mindset of being insecure. They are doing menial jobs, and they are not rooted to any such institute, families, or organization, which the educated people are. So because of that, they are absolutely unsure. They are absolutely reserved. They are not as vocal as we are, but they have the same concern. And I'll then go back. They have the same feeling. Because understand they have here to earn a money, and then to support a family. And then this brings me to the another reference point, which is Yashpal Saxena, Ankit Saxena's father. He was invited to the Iftar, and I was absolutely, impressed, and I developed a deep respect for the gentleman. He come from a lower middle class socio-economic background. To come from such a background, to come from the other community, and to lose your son, and to lose your only son, and who was in the prime of his youth, and having had all those emotional, financial, and social setbacks, you still rise above all of that. And you say, I will do a iftar for the community. Iftar is a symbolism of the community who supposedly take his son's life. People from that community. But he rises above all of these and say, I'll do an iftar. Which I think is a prime example that whether, any socio-economic background you come from. And when I asked him on stage, you have to say something. In fact, a couple of other people asked, you have to say something. He looked at the crowd, and there was a cross-section of crowd. I think he did not smile, but his frown became lesser. It grew, it becomes less prominent. And then he said one sentence, that this should continue, this should not stop.
The iftar brought hundreds of people together, entire families, old people, young people, children. They were all there. And among them was Yashpal Saxena, in whose actions these people found strength, the strength that only love has, that hate can never have.
एक सांप्रदायिकता के खिलाफ एक बहुत बड़ी आवाज उठ रही है। यशपाल जी, आप कुछ बोलना चाहें? मैं क्या बोल सकता हूँ, कभी बोला भी नहीं, सीधा साधा आदमी हूँ। आपने इतनी इज्जत दी तो मैं बोलने लायक भी नहीं हूँ। ये जरूर चाहता हूँ कि ये जो हो रहा है ना, ये रुके नहीं बस।
Yashpal Saxena asks that the coming together of communities should continue. Often, even political parties engage in symbolic gestures that showcase harmony. But citizens' initiatives should not be symbolic. They should be ongoing processes. They should become part of our culture. This is reiterated by Daya Singh, another main organizer of the Gurgaon Citizens Initiative. He has been involved in peace work for decades and is currently with the All India Peace Mission.
हमारा पहला कदम ये होना चाहिए कि अगर कोई ऐसे हालात पैदा हो रहे हैं तो हम सबको मिलकर एक दूसरे के नज़दीक आकर एक दूसरे के पास बैठकर संवाद और डायलॉग प्रोसेस को इनिशिएट करना चाहिए। जब हमारे डायलॉग प्रोसेस इनिशिएट हो जाएंगे तो कोई भी आदमी ऐसा कोई काम करना लगेगा तो समाज उसके विरोध पर खड़ा हो जाएगा। जब समाज उसके विरोध पर खड़ा हो जाएगा तो कोई भी अकेला आदमी कोई ऐसी हरकत नहीं कर सकता। आज के हालात में जो भ्रष्ट तंत्र है उसने इस देश के हालात को खराब किया है। मैं समझता हूँ कि इस पर हमें लगाम लगानी चाहिए और ये हम सब की जिम्मेदारी है। हम सबको मिलकर आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। मैं कई बार ये कहता हूँ, हरमंदिर साहब की जब स्थापना हुई, अगर उसी हरमंदिर साहब को देखें, उसकी नींव साईं मियां मीर रख रहे हैं। उसका वास्तुकला जो है वो हमारे सामने मस्जिद नुमा है, मुस्लिम वास्तुकला से मेल खाती है। उसके 4 दरवाजे हैं और उसका जो आने और जाने का रास्ता एक ही है। इसीलिए गुरु ग्रंथ साहब में ये लिखा है, इत मार्ग चल पाइयड़ गुर कह सोकार कमाए जियो, त्यागे मन की मतड़ी विसारे दूजा पाओ जियो, क्यों होवे हर दरसावड़ा न लगे तत्ती वाओ जियो। इसलिए उसका नाम हरिमंदिर है।
Daya Singh also elaborates on why he thinks religious violence happens.
सांप्रदायिक हिंसा होती क्यों है? जब आदमी अपने आप को भूल जाता है और वो ये समझता है कि मैं एक धर्म से जुड़ा हूँ और दूसरे धर्म के लोगों और दूसरा धर्म मेरे धर्म के बराबर नहीं है, यहीं से फिरका परस्ती और यहीं से हालात खराब होते हैं। हर एक में अच्छे और बुरे बातें हर समाज में मिल जाएंगी। गुरु नानक ने बहुत स्पष्ट ये बात कही कि दावा अगन बहुत तृण जाले कोई हरिया बूट रहे हो रही। जब इस आग में हम सब झुलस रहे हों तो क्या उसमें हरा पौधा भी कोई बचेगा कि या वह भी झुलस जाएगा? आज के हालात हमारे सामने यही नज़र आ रहे हैं कि हम सब झुलसे जा रहे हैं। हम एक दूसरे के विरोध पर खड़े हैं। अपने आप को हम स्वच्छ और अच्छा मानकर दूसरों को गलीस और तंग दिल मानते हैं। यही हमारी मानसिकता का कारण है। हम लोगों को इसके ऊपर होना चाहिए और हमें एक दूसरे के नज़दीक लाना चाहिए। यही गुरु नानक और गुरुओं का संदेश है, मानस की जात सब एक ही पहचान वो।
In Nazim Iqbal's view, violence happens because the perpetrator has moved away from his core human values.
In spite of people with multiple thoughts, with multiple orientation and multiple mindset, I believe they are same at the core. कि हर ह्यूमन बीइंग एट द कोर सेम वही है, उसके वैल्यूज भी वही हैं। चाहे वो जितना बड़ा एंटी सोशल ब्रांडेड किया जा चुका हो या वो बहुत ही काइंड हार्टेड ब्रांडेड किया जा सका हो, उसका कोर वही है। होता क्या है कि हम दुनियादारी में इतने रंग जाते हैं कि हमारे ऊपर उस कोर के ऊपर कई लेयर चढ़ते रहते हैं और उस कोर से जिसके ऊपर जितने ज्यादा लेयर होते हैं वो उतना दूर चला जाता है। और मेरा अपना ये मानना है और मेरे अपने पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं कि आप किसी को भी एक सर्कमस्टांसेस मिले उसमें वो झंझुड़ जाए, he will go back to his core.
Active citizenship may involve participating in the events that are being talked about in this program, but it can also be as simple as using your own phones. Phones are potent weapons which can be employed for causing harm or good. Nazim Iqbal believes that when we see messages of hate on social media, we must expose their hateful nature.
Like in real life, if there is a free piece of land lying somewhere, who do you think will be the first people who will use that free piece lying? The gentle, the disciplined people will either follow or will be reluctant or will not follow to use that land. They will think ethically, legally. I think the same has happened with social. The more sane voice, the more humane voice, they have been stunned, by the blatant use of the media or social media. So I think now that tide is rising, and I would rather recommend that people who have a more balanced view, who are more genteel in their approach, they need to come forward for the sake of the world, for the sake of the humanity.
With the history of communal violence in India, including large-scale massacres like in 1984, some have started to believe that different communities cannot live together. But diversity has long been a cherished value in Indian culture, and people involved in these citizens' initiatives believe that communities can live together in peace. Understanding each other is a first step towards that peace.
इसमें कोई शक नहीं, गुरु नानक का संदेश यही कहता है कि हम सब को मिलकर चलना चाहिए, आगे बढ़ना चाहिए और एक होकर चलना चाहिए। इसी कारण उन्होंने जब वेई नदी से प्रथम उदासी, जिसको पहली यात्रा कहा जा सकता है, और उनकी 13 साल की यात्राएं इसी मुद्दे पर रही, और उन्होंने जब सुल्तानपुर लोधी से अपनी यात्रा आरंभ की तो उन्होंने यही सवाल किया, ना को हिंदू ना मुसलमान, अल्लो राम के पिंड फरान। तो हम सब मानस हैं, हम सबको मिलकर चलना चाहिए और हम सबको एक रास्ते पर बैठना चाहिए।
What people in the region of India's capital are doing to organize against hate gives us hope. These are so-called ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things to put a stop to hostility, violence, and prejudice. Gurgaon is part of Haryana, which is a state that has historically been an example of inter-community efforts to fight injustice. In the first Indian War of Independence against British colonialism in 1857, the people of Haryana played a major part across lines of religion and caste. We conclude this program with a song in Haryanvi that is more than 3 decades old and calls for Hindus and Muslims to come together to organize against injustice. रह गए आपस में लड़ते हम, रह गए आपस में लड़ते हम, कोन्या बात बिचारी, हिंदू मुस्लिम कोई नहीं मजदूर कौम से हमारी, रह गए आपस में लड़ते हम, रह गए आपस में लड़ते हम, कोन्या बात बिचारी, हिंदू मुस्लिम कोई नहीं मजदूर कौम से हमारी, जो गोरे ने भेद करा था हिंदू मुस्लिम का भाई, न्यों ये मोटे मोटे चावे हम आपस में करें लड़ाई, हमें लड़ा के जात पात पे, हमें लड़ा के जात पात पे ये लूटे माया मारी, हिंदू मुस्लिम कोई नहीं मजदूर कौम से हमारी।